one way to get over the mindset block is to think in terms of quality over quantity. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, less is more. So we want to focus on delivering high quality, actionable content that truly helps your audience and packs a punch. I'm Amy Porterfield, ex-corporate girl turned CEO of a multi-seven-figure business. But it wasn't all that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the budget, and the time to focus on growing my small but mighty business. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, and you'll see the business I have today. One that changes lives and gives me more freedom than I ever thought possible. One that used to only exist as a daydream. I created the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're an ambitious entrepreneur or one in the making who's looking to create a business that makes an impact and a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Online Marketing Made Easy. We're continuing our Mythbuster series where we debunk the most common objections that stop people from diving into the world of digital courses. Now, I'm beyond excited that you're here today because we're going to tackle one of the biggest hurdles, and that is lack of time. Now, you by now know how much I love digital courses, right? I genuinely believe that everyone has a digital course inside them just waiting to come out. So why do some people hesitate to create a digital course when we know that they can transform your life and your business for the better? Well, I've discovered that there are actually 5 reasons that people are weary of creating and launching their digital course. So what are these 5 reasons? Well, number 1, thinking that you have to have a bunch of money to pour into your course to get it created. Not true. Or 2, feeling like you lack the credibility or the expertise to create a course. Believe me, you already have the 10% edge. Or having too small of an audience. I could tell you so many stories of people with less than 500 people launching courses to success. Or worrying that you don't have enough content. You can create a mini course to get started, and then that will snowball into something bigger. But today, I want to talk about the 5th reason, and that is feeling like you just don't have the time. And we're focusing on why time shouldn't be a barrier to create a successful digital course today, because I think it's really important to talk about. And I've got an inspiring story that you're going to hear at the end of this episode that will show you just how possible it is to make it work, even with a packed schedule. So stay tuned for that. But right now, I want to share some reasons why creating a digital course is more than possible to do, even if you are incredibly busy. And then along with some strategies that you can implement to make more time in your day, like to find the time. So let's do this. And I think this episode, whether you want to create a course or not, just looking at how you view time and how you can find more time, which that sounds silly. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, but you can use your time differently to get the things done that you really want to get done to hit your goals. So I think there's something for everyone in this episode. It's a shorty episode, so let's get to it. First off, let's get one thing straight. Creating a digital course doesn't have to be a massive time-consuming project. In fact, many successful course creators start it while working a 9-to-5 job with just a few hours a week to spare to do it. Or a lot of people that get into my world, they already have a business, so they've got a lot going on, but they want a digital course to create more recurring revenue. And so they too don't have a lot of time and they just have a few hours a week, which makes it very possible to create a course. I promise you. And it's all about making the most of the time that you have and being strategic with your efforts. And listen, I get it. The thought of creating an entire digital course with limited time, it could feel or seem overwhelming. But one way to get over the mindset block is to think in terms of quality over quantity. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, less is more. So we want to focus on delivering high quality, actionable content that truly helps your audience and packs a punch. One of my favorite strategies is to break the process down into smaller, more manageable tasks. So instead of looking at the whole thing, like I got to create the course and launch the course, and so much goes into that, we're going to take one step at a time. This is how I teach course creation and launching. And also, I want you to know that you could sit down and you could outline your course. So get clear on what you want to teach, start kind of building out what the modules and the lessons will look like, and just a loose outline. So you're really clear how you're going to get people results. So once you've done a robust outline and you feel really solid on this is what I can teach, you don't have to go create your course. What you're going to do then is start working on pre-selling your course so that you never create a course that you're not sure if people will buy. So I'm really big on pre-selling your course. And then once people buy, once you launch it and you've got all your students who've paid, you can create module by module, week by week in real time. That's how most of my students do it. That's how I did it in the beginning as well. Meaning you don't have to create the full course and record everything and edit it before you sell it. Actually, I don't even want you to do that. So we do not have to do all of this stuff before you actually start making money and seeing how your audience responds to your idea. So this goal is to just break it up into smaller pieces. I am the queen of step by step, and I get really overwhelmed with really big projects. And so I've got to just detail it out. When I teach my students, I give them a project plan. It's literally every single step they need to do in the order they need to do it so that they too can just take bite-sized pieces. Let's get this part done. Great, move on. But if you're thinking of the whole thing and that's overwhelming you, let's just stop that. Like, let's not go there because it makes a really big difference if you could just step back and think, I'm just going to go one step at a time. Now, I promise you this whole thing is doable. But what I want to stop and point out for a moment is that you already have enough content. So when you sit down to outline everything that you want to teach, I promise you, you've gotten results for yourself or for somebody else, and you know how you got those results. So sitting down and outlining, first they should do this, next they should do that. Once you give yourself time to do this, it definitely comes together. Let's say you are a one-on-one coach. You do coaching or consulting. You might think in your head, but I don't have enough for a digital course. Like I work with people one-on-one. I pitch and catch with them. They give me some kind of issue or challenge and I work with them and we go back and forth. So that would never work in a course. Oh, my friend, you are so very wrong. And this happens a lot. So I like to point this out. You have a system, a foundation, a formula for how you serve people. It might look a little different each time because everybody's different, but there's still factors that run through everyone you coach or consult. There's still a through line of how you teach, your formula, your path. And you can pull that out and put it into a digital course. I have seen it done over and over. So for those of you who think, I don't have enough content, you already have enough in you. That's another myth I'm busting on the podcast. So I want to bring us back, but I just had to stop and say, okay, I promise you already have enough. But let's get back to this time thing. So if you're going to take one step at a time, you might say like, Amy, this all sounds great, but how do I actually find the time? Well, I've got you covered. I want to talk about some practical ways to carve out more time in your busy schedule. So number one, I want you to start your day with a plan. I actually don't even want you to go to bed the night before without putting your plan together and you wake up just ready to go. To me, that is the best thing you can do. I am a big believer in a to-do list, but I use the full focus method of narrowing down your tasks to your daily 3. Like tomorrow, these 3 things are going to get done come hell or high water. This is my focus. And these 3 things all relate to my bigger goals. So if one of your goals is to create and launch your digital course this year, then one of those or 2 or all 3 of those things, 1 to 3 of them have to align with your bigger goals. So getting more clear on what you're spending your time on, making sure your tasks are actually aligned with your goals, that's the full focus method. It changed everything for me. It just helps you stay focused. And it really ensures that you're focusing on the right thing. Because a lot of people who come to me and say, Amy, I'm so busy, I just don't have the time. When I start to kind of dig into how they're spending their time, they're spending it on things that actually should not be their focus. They're doing things, saying yes to things, diving down deep rabbit holes of things that are totally not related to their bigger goals or to getting them the results they're looking for. So you've got to be really clear on how you're spending your time. And my favorite thing to do is when I'm shutting things down around 5 or 6 p.m., I make sure that I'm very clear on what I'm working on the next day. I look at my meetings. I know how I'm going to navigate through the day, and I know what tasks I'm going to do to get me closer to my goals. And so it's just a 10-minute workplace shutdown. It's part of your routine. It helps immensely. It just helps you focus on the things that are going to get you to the results you want. Number 2, you've got to utilize blocking. This is one of my favorite time management techniques, and I use this every single day. So I want you to set aside blocks of time in your calendar dedicated solely to course creation and launching strategies, wherever you are in the whole process of putting it together. So you block out time. Let's say it's an hour 3 times a week. No one gets in this time. I call it tiger time. No one gets in this time. It's scheduled weeks in advance. You know that this time is always on your calendar every single week, and it has to become a non-negotiable. So if you're listening and your plan isn't to create a course, but you're really struggling with always being busy and not enough time, this still works for you. Blocks of time in your calendar that are focused on a very specific initiative, goal, project, whatever it might be. And so what happens is if you're really strict on this is my time to get it done and nothing gets in the way, if you really focus on that, every single week you're moving closer to getting it done, whatever it is. In this case, creating and launching your course. It eliminates distractions. You're going to turn off notifications. You're not going to have, of course, any meetings. You're going to close down all the tabs on your computer and you're just going to work. My good friend, Brendan Burchard, I remember he shared this with me years ago. When he's writing his book, he gets on a computer without Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi is ever turned on in this computer. He cannot surf the web. He cannot look at things online. He has an open Google Doc and he is typing. Like he literally has a computer that he never turns Wi-Fi on with this special computer. I thought that was brilliant because it's so easy to get distracted. Okay, number 3 is if it's in your budget, don't be afraid to automate and delegate tasks that don't require your personal touch. So this frees up more of your time for the creative work that only you can do. So you could just do a search on Google, or you could do Chat GPT and say what you do in your business and who you are, and say, I would like to automate things in my business, put together a plan. This is not the prompt. You want to Google a good prompt for this, but see if Chat GPT can give you some ideas of who you are and what you do, how to delegate and automate more in your business. I think that's a great use of Chat GPT if you put in the right prompts and you keep talking to it in a way until you get what you need. But in addition to that, virtual assistants and contractors can be a huge help. And depending on their skill set, they can help with anything from research to content organization, to formatting, to systems, to customer service. I wouldn't say a virtual assistant should be able to do it all, but you can narrow down on the things that you definitely need help on, whether it be with your course creation or just with other things in your business so that you can focus on what really matters. And finally, here's my last tip. And this one, I'm going to tell you about it, but you can't abuse this tip. You can't use it to hustle, 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 and not get a moment of downtime. So use it wisely. But when I worked for Tony Robbins, he used to teach this thing called net time, N-E-T, net time, which meant no extra time. He called it that because you can get work done even though you don't have extra time. So what he taught was, let's say you are at the doctor's office, you're sitting in the waiting room, and can you pull out your phone and start jotting down some ideas for your digital course? Or maybe you're sitting in the carpool lane waiting for your kids to get out of school. Could you record a quick voice memo with lesson ideas and potential launching ideas for your course? So you're thinking about what could I do? How do I want to navigate this course in the launch? And using your net time to kind of start formulating your ideas. So I say use this cautiously because sometimes when you're sitting in the carpool lane, You just need a moment to breathe. I was talking to one of my friends who has a toddler right now, which is very different from my life. So I always try to be sensitive to that. And she's like, I just need a moment to breathe. And I get that. So you have to know what you need and be careful of like the hustle mentality. But if you're feeling good and you've got this extra time because you're waiting for something, or it's usually waiting, use it wisely if that feels right for you. Here's an example. Let's say you are early to a meeting. I am notoriously early to things, not always, but definitely when I have to drive somewhere, I'm always earlier than I need to be. So maybe I grab my phone and I do a voice message of all the FAQs that I think will probably need to go on my sales page around my course. What are people going to be asking? The frequently asked questions. What are they going to be asking over and over again? So now I've got a note section. So when I'm ready to write that part of my sales page, I've already thought of it because I had a little net time and I used it. So the way Tony says, every little bit adds up. And the key is to always have some ideas of how you could use that time if you're feeling like that could be valuable. So I think using the notes section on your phone is underrated. I don't think we do it enough, but here's a little secret. You got to get organized. You got to make sure that you're titling your notes appropriately. You're going back to them when you need to. But when you're creating and launching a course and tons of ideas are coming up and you feel like you're strapped for time, making sure those ideas get into your phone, always a good idea. And then, of course, you can come back to that. So I think that part is really important. Okay, so if I still haven't made a believer out of you, telling you you can get this done, I've seen many of my students with very little time get their course created and launched and out into the world with success. If you don't believe me, then I want you to hear from one of my students, Darnell Brown, who is living proof that you can create a wildly successful digital course with little time. So take a listen.
So I remember the year was 2022. And I had recently taken a launch accelerator challenge through a different entity, learned about Amy through Course Confident, and ended up upgrading to get the full DCA experience. And I was juggling maybe 3 or 4 clients at the time, was operating at 200 capacity for sure. I was working on my own podcast and new things that I was beginning to test. And then after learning about the possibilities when it came to creating a new source of income and being able to share everything I learned through that point in a new and provocative way that has been battle tested, I said, yeah, I got to do this. I got to somehow make this happen, even though I don't have time to create a digital course. And I had to remember my why. I had to have something bigger than me, something bigger than any of my tangible reasons for saying, I don't have the time to do this, but I still need to find a way. What sacrifices am I willing to make? And I'm glad that I did it. I followed the entire recipe. I got out there, I did my course validation calls. I did the course creation sweet spot exercise. I got my first 10 and I trusted the process ultimately. And I remember when Amy kept saying, DSD, what's the biggest thing that you can do? And for me at that time, that meant forgetting everything that I thought I knew. I'd already produced 4 courses prior to that point. And I said, I just got to approach this with a beginner's mindset. Because if I don't, I'm going to continue to question all of this game she's given me and be wondering, like trying to pick and go, like saying maybe I'm gonna skip modules 1 through 3 and just go all the way to 5 because why do I need to validate something if I already got students? So I let all of that go. I just delivered myself over to the process. And then I did it like network TV. Once I got my first in at the door, because the whole idea is pre-sell it and then you build it. And if you don't pre-sell it, that means you aren't as good as you could be at articulating the value of the course. So once I knew I had that locked and I was able to pre-sell it, then I said, okay, here's my release date. Now you have that validation from people who have traded their hard-earned money for what you are going to produce. They can't even see it yet, but they trust in you. They're trusting your process. And you can be professional. You can give them updates and things. And I said, okay, as long as I can build it as this is going on, like network TV, if I'm working on modules 3 and 4 as the first one is released, I'm just a few weeks ahead. And that was one of my ways of being able to still operate at full-time capacity while having enough bandwidth to spend maybe an hour or so a week on producing the content, recording my videos, designing my slide decks, designing my worksheets, and editing my footage all together by being just a few weeks ahead of where my students were at that time. And that was the magic of it, that I didn't need to have the full course produced if I was going to drip it out on a weekly basis anyway. So that was my big secret to it, which was to barrel towards an actual release date, but then really start producing, at least making sure that first 1 or 2 modules were already ready to go by that deadline, and then saying it's okay to produce from here. So I was just a little bit further ahead than where my students were, and cranking out emails and still making it appear as though the entire course was already built. And so again, I didn't have time. The lesson I learned is, if your why is bigger than your excuses, you can be resourceful, you can find ways to be creative, you can realize that you don't have to have it all together all at once. If you can build it and have that validation, know that it's something people want, it will hold you accountable in a different way, because you don't want to lose that reputation, that rapport that you've built with people that have traded their hard-earned income in something that they can't see yet. So it's bigger than you. It's about the transformation that you're promising the people that you're meaning to help. And that was the big thing that I learned that kept me going all the way through when those times were difficult. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna get this done. So that's my lesson on not having the time to creating a digital course, but ending up doing it anyway. And the crazy thing was, during my course validation calls, I inadvertently sold my first student on something that I had yet to build. And she was like, yeah, I need that in my life. I'm ready to buy it. And I'm so serious. And I'm like, I don't even have a checkout page yet. So I went to my accountability pod and got their feedback from them about whether or not I should continue taking DCA as is, or take a small pivot and build up this checkout page so that I could pre-sell this and get my first student in the door. And I did both of those things at once. I was still taking the course, and I did build that checkout page really quickly. And she ended up sharing that online on her own merit. That ended up starting to take a life of its own. And it was just because I learned how to articulate the value of something I had yet to build. And I was confident in it, and I could see it before had actually built it. But I was really just asking questions and saying, well, what I had planned to build, and I was able to sell that idea. So I was really, really proud of that.
So inspiring, right? It's not about working 24/7. It's about being smart with the time you have. So, friend, I hope this episode has shown you that creating a digital course is very doable, even if you feel like you are short on time. Remember, it's not about having endless hours to do the work. It's about making the most of the time that you do have. Now, I do have something special for you that will definitely interest you if you're crunched for time. If you're feeling inspired to start a digital course, but still a little overwhelmed about the process, I've got just the thing to help you get started. So I've created a custom AI course topic generator tool just for you. So if you can think of one topic, like a short sentence or even one word, around something that you know really well, that you could likely teach about, I want you to put that into this AI tool. So let's say golf or potty training or social media marketing. And my AI tool will instantly generate half a dozen potential digital course topics just for you. So this tool is perfect if you're worried about not having enough time to brainstorm or plan your course, or you think, shoot, I got to make sure I have the right topic because I don't want to waste a bunch of time because I hardly have the time to do this. This helps you get really laser focused on the course you want to create. So with basically next to nothing effort, you are going to have course topics that you could absolutely teach, problems that you'll love to solve, and just the confidence that these new ideas could absolutely lead to a successful, profitable digital course. And then if you use the AI tool, put, your topic in there and see what comes out. I will also follow up with just a quick guide explaining how to identify your course creation sweet spot. So now that you have a topic in mind, I'm going to take you through 4 quadrants. I'll send this to you after you use the AI tool to make sure that this topic is going to make you money and it's going to serve the right audience. So it's called the course creation sweet spot. It's something I've taught for years and years. I'll send you a quick guide so you can take your new topic through the sweet spot to make sure that you've landed on something that's going to be a success. All right, my friend. So to get your hands on this free course topic generator tool, just go to amyporterfield.com/AI. Remember, you don't need hours upon hours to create an amazing digital course. With the right tools and strategies, you can turn your knowledge into a course, even with a busy schedule. So amyporterfield.com/AI. Go there now, grab it. I think you're going to find a lot of value in this tool. All right, my friend, thank you so much for tuning in here today, and make sure you're following along. I've got a lot more where this came from. I'm getting laser focused over the next few months just to make sure that you know what you can do online to make the kind of money that you deserve. So make sure to follow this podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on Thursday for more entrepreneurial goodness. Same time, same place. Bye for now.